The war had ended, but not for her. Zelari lay on the cold metal floor of the refugee station. Her legs twisted and broken, hadn't moved in weeks. Her skin was pale, her clothes torn. Other aliens walked by, some limping, some crying, some quiet, but no one looked at her. No one asked her name. No one stopped. She was just a body on the floor. Zelari had once danced. Her feet had once touched the sky as her people sang in circles around glowing trees. She had worn bright silk and silver bells on her ankles. Now, she only heard silence and smelled rust. She couldn't even crawl anymore. Her muscles had weakened, her mind too tired to hope. She thought often about death, quietly, not with fear, but with calm acceptance. No one needed her. She had no family, no strength. Her people had scattered. Her homeworld was ashes, so she closed her eyes. Maybe today would be her last day. But then dashed footsteps. Different. Heavy. Not like the aliens around her. These were boots. Human boots. Zelari didn't open her eyes. It didn't matter. She was invisible. She always was. But the footsteps stopped. Right next to her. A pause. Then a voice. Low, steady, calm. Is she breathing? Zelari's eyelids fluttered open, just a little. She saw a shadow kneeling beside her. A man, human. His skin was worn and tanned. His uniform dirty. A small silver tag read, "Daniel, she's conscious." He whispered to someone behind him, but her legs. Damn. No medical file. No name. Another voice replied. She came in from the south sector. She's been like this for days. No one claimed her. Daniel looked at her face. What's your name? Zelari didn't answer. She stared at him, waiting for him to leave. But he didn't. Instead, he reached into his coat and took out a water pack. He opened it, lifted her head gently, and held it to her lips. She hesitated, then drank. Her throat burned from the dryness. When she stopped, Daniel smiled slightly. Still fighting, he said. She shook her head weakly. Barely a movement. No, she whispered, her voice dry. Not fighting, just waiting. For what? He asked. For it to end. Daniel didn't speak for a while. He looked at her legs, crushed and twisted. Old blood marked her skin. Her bones hadn't healed. Her knees looked wrong. She had likely been trampled. Maybe a blast. Maybe a ship crash. He had seen injuries like this before on battlefields. Most didn't survive. But here she was, alive, just barely. Daniel placed a hand on her arm. I'm going to carry you. Need help? Zelari's eyes widened. No, she whispered. Leave me. He ignored her. She felt herself being lifted. His arms were strong, but careful. She gasped. No one had touched her in weeks. She expected him to drop her, to get disgusted, to change his mind. He didn't. He wrapped her in his coat, shielding her from the cold air. He stood and walked slowly, carefully carrying her through the long hallway of the refugee base. Other aliens stared. Some scoffed, some turned away. Some whispered, "Why her? She's broken. A waste." Daniel ignored them. He carried her to a quiet corner of the station, where the walls were warmer and the air didn't smell like dust. He laid her on a cleaner cot, covered her with a blanket, set up a small light. Zelari looked up at him. "Why?" she asked softly. "Because," he said, kneeling beside her again, "you're still here." She turned her face away. "I can't walk. You will." She laughed, a dry, bitter laugh. "My legs are dead." "Not dead," Daniel said. "Not yet." "I was a dancer," she said quietly. "Now I am nothing." Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then said, "You're still breathing. That's something." She stared at the ceiling. Don't know what it's like to fall and never rise again." "I do," he said. She turned her head slowly, confused. Daniel didn't explain. He simply said, "Tomorrow, we'll clean your wounds. We'll start exercises. I'll find support. Braces. It won't be easy." "I don't want hope," she said, voice shaking. "It hurts." "Good," Daniel said, standing. "That means you still feel something." She blinked. He turned to leave, then paused, looked back. "You will walk again," he whispered. And then he was gone. Zellery stared at the light he left behind. A small light, faint, but warm. She hadn't felt warm in a very long time. Zellery didn't sleep much that night. The cot was soft compared to the floor she used to lie on, but her legs still burned with pain. More than that, her mind was confused. Why did the human help her? Why didn't he walk away like everyone else? She stared at the small light he had left in the corner. It blinked softly, almost like a heartbeat. And every time it blinked, she remembered his words, "You will walk again." Zellery didn't believe it. Not really. But for some reason, she couldn't forget it either. The next morning, Daniel returned. He brought warm food, simple and soft. She hadn't eaten real food in days. He held the bowl near her mouth, letting her eat at her pace. He didn't rush her, didn't talk too much, just stayed beside her. After the meal, he cleaned her wounds. His touch was gentle. He poured warm water on her legs, wiped the dried blood, applied a healing salve. Zellery turned her face away, ashamed. "I used to fly through the air," she whispered. "Now I can't even lift my foot." Daniel didn't respond right away. He pressed a soft cloth to a wound, then said quietly, "It's not about where you were. It's about where you go next." She wanted to argue, but she had no strength. For the next few days, Daniel came every morning. He adjusted her blanket, brought clean clothes, fixed her brace. He used scrap metal to create supports for her legs, small rods, and joint hinges, made from old ship parts. It wasn't beautiful, but it was something, and he talked to her. He told her about Earth, about how some humans survive disasters with just kindness and grit, about how his sister had lost her sight but learned to dance with sound, about how he once broke both arms in war and still learned to use his elbows to write. "Pain is part of living," he said one evening, "but you don't have to live in pain alone." Zellery looked at him, really looked. His face was lined with quiet sorrow. His eyes had seen war, loss, yet he still smiled, still helped. Why? That question never left her. One day, Daniel returned with a strange object. A walker something with 4 legs and hand grips. It looked handmade, clunky, and too big. Zellery frowned. "I can't use that." "You will," Daniel replied. He placed the walker beside her cot. Then, carefully, he wrapped straps around her waist and under her arms. "What are you doing?" she asked, nervous. "Lifting you up," he said. "No." She said sharply, "I'll fall. I'll break again. I'll catch you." She stared at him. "Why do you care?" He paused, then answered softly, "Because no one cared when I fell once. And I remember what that felt like." Zellery closed her eyes, then nodded. Daniel gently lifted her from the cot. Her legs dangled, shaking. The braces he made clicked into place. He helped her hold the walker's handles. "Now," he said, "push forward. Just a little." Zellery gritted her teeth. Her arms shook, her legs screamed, but she pushed, and the walker moved. Only an inch, but it moved. Then her knees gave out. She collapsed. Daniel caught her before she hit the floor. She cried, not from pain, but from frustration. From weakness, from shame. "I'm useless," she whispered. "You're not," Daniel said, holding her steady. "You're healing." "I didn't even take one full step, but you tried. That's more than yesterday. The next day, she tried again and again. Each time, she moved just a little more. Each time, Daniel stood close, ready to catch her. He never yelled, never scolded. He just believed, and somehow, that belief made her want to try harder. Some of the other aliens noticed. They watched from the hallway. A few shook their heads. She's broken. They muttered. A waste of resources. But one small alien girl watched with wide eyes. She tugged her mother's hand and said, "She's walking." And the mother replied, "She's trying." Zellari heard them, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a shadow. She felt like a light, small, weak, but growing. That night, as Daniel cleaned her wounds, Zellari asked him, "Why didn't you walk away when you first saw me?" Looked at her, "'Cause you were the only one not asking for help, and that told me you needed it the most." Zellari didn't reply, but she smiled. Just a little, and Daniel smiled back. Because in her eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen. Before strength, not in her legs, but in her will. The room was quiet, except for the soft sound of metal clicking. Zellari sat on the edge of the cot, her legs trembling inside the handmade braces. Daniel sat beside her, holding the walker steady. The morning light came through the high window. Touching her pale blue skin, she looked at her legs. They didn't feel like hers, still stiff, still heavy. But something had changed. Not her legs, her heart. "I'm not ready," she whispered. Daniel smiled gently. "That's why we do it now." She took a deep breath and placed her hands on the walker's grips. Her fingers shook. Her palms were sweaty. Her body screamed, "No but her." Mind whispered, "Try." Daniel moved in front of her. Not to stop her, but to catch her if she fell. "Just one step," he said calmly. "Just one." Zellari gritted her teeth. She pulled herself up with the walker. Her braces creaked. Her arms ached. Her legs shook like broken branches in wind. Then, her left foot moved forward 1 inch. Her knee buckled, and she fell. Daniel caught her before she hit the ground. He lowered her slowly, gently, as if she were fragile glass. She collapsed in his arms. Her chest rose and fell with fast, angry breaths. Her eyes filled with tears. "I failed," she choked. "No," Daniel said firmly, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "You moved. That's a win." "I fell," she repeated, ashamed. "You stood, Zellari," he said, "and you tried. That's more than most do in a lifetime." She didn't believe him, but the way he said her name, it made her heart flutter. No one had spoken her name with such kindness before. The next day, she tried again, and again the day after. Each time she stood. Each time she moved her foot. Each time she fell. And each time Daniel caught her never angry, never tired, never mocking. "You're getting stronger," he said. She didn't feel stronger. She felt broken, but she kept trying because he believed, because someone finally believed in her. Others began to notice. From the hallway, 2 alien children peeked in during her 4th attempt. The younger one gasped, "She's standing." The older one shook his head, only for a second. But they kept watching. Word spread through the camp. The broken girl was trying to walk again. Some laughed, some shook their heads, some felt hope. Because if she could stand again, maybe they could too. One night, Zellari sat on the edge of her bed, looking at her legs. Daniel was across the room, working on her braces, tightening bolts, polishing the rods. "Do you ever get tired of helping me?" she asked softly. Daniel looked up. "No, why not?" He leaned back in the chair, thinking, because every time you fall, you rise a little faster. Zellar didn't speak. She just stared at the floor. Then she asked, "Were you ever broken?" Daniel looked away, his jaw tightening. "Yes," he said. There was a long silence. "I lost people in the war," he continued. "A whole squad. I was the only one who walked out. I blamed myself. For a long time, I didn't want to walk again either." Zalari looked at him, surprised. He had scars too, but he kept moving, and now he was helping her do the same. The fifth attempt came under a red sunset. Zalari stood beside the walker, breathing hard. Daniel stood beside her. Not touching, just watching. She gripped the handles, pulled herself up, stepped forward. Her right foot moved, then her left. Then she wobbled. I now moved fast. Daniel moved fast, but this time she hit the floor gently. Sharp. Pain, just a soft thud. She looked up, expecting pity, but Daniel smiled. "You took 2 steps this time." Zalari blinked. He was right, 2 steps, not 1. She smiled through the tears and whispered, "I did." Later that evening, she lay on her cot, staring at the ceiling. Her legs ached, arms throbbed, but her heart was calm, because today, she had walked just a little. Daniel sat in a chair beside her, tools in hand, adjusting the braces again. "Will I ever dance again?" she asked suddenly. He paused, looked at her. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but walking comes first." Zalari closed her eyes and whispered, "I'll try again tomorrow." Daniel nodded. "I'll be here, and in that quiet room." Something powerful bloomed. A promise, 1 step at a time. Together, asterisk. The station lights dimmed as night fell. Most refugees were already asleep. The halls were quiet, the voices gone, and the smell of old metal and ration packs hung in the air. But in Daniel's corner room, the soft glow of a portable lamp still flickered. Zalari sat upright on her cot, sweat on her brow, arms trembling from the day's effort. Her legs still hurt, her braces pinched, her muscles throbbed. But she had taken 4 steps today, real steps, not perfect, not without pain, but steps. Each one had felt like fire running through her body. Yet she had smiled because she hadn't needed Daniel to catch her. Not today. He sat across from her now, working, silently. His tools clicked as he adjusted the braces again, polishing the rods. Smoothing the support joints, he was tired too, but he never showed it. Zalari watched him in silence for a long time, then softly asked, "Why do you stay?" Daniel paused, looked up, the lamplit half of his face, showing the shadow of an old scar near his eye. "I gave my word," he replied. Zalari tilted her head slightly. "But I'm not your mission. I'm not your friend. I'm not even your species. You're alive," he said simply. "That's enough." She looked away, unsure what to say. Her people didn't speak this way. They didn't give kindness. Without reason, but Daniel. He gave without asking for anything. That confused her. Minutes passed in silence. Outside the window, the stars shimmered in silence. Then Zalari whispered, "We had a moon on my world. We called it Elka." Daniel looked over. What happened to it? She paused, then answered softly. It was shattered. During the war, a human cruiser exploded in orbit. The fire tore the sky. Daniel frowned, guilt flashing in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. Zalari shook her head. "You didn't do it. But someone like me did," he said. She didn't. "Argue instead," she asked. "Have you lost your sky?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Not my sky, but I've lost people. Good ones." He didn't say more. But his voice held weight, like old memories. Zalari leaned back on the pillow, eyes soft. "Do you think broken people can still be whole?" Daniel smiled gently. "Maybe not the same as before, but maybe stronger, different, like a scar." but one that reminds you you're still alive. Zellari let out a slow breath. My people believe scars are shame. Daniel leaned closer. On Earth, some believe scars are stories, and stories are power. That made her pause talk. Power. She had never thought her pain could be a kind of strength. Later that night, the lights went completely out. A power save cycle hit the refugee station. Just emergency glow left in the hallway. Zellari shifted in bed, unable to sleep. Her mind was full of words, of memories, of the past and the unknown future. Then she heard soft humming. Daniel was still. Awake, sitting by the window, humming a slow, sad tune. "What is that?" she asked. "A lullaby," he said. "My mother used to sing it to me when the world felt too loud." Zellari listened. The melody was gentle, like warm wind. "Will you? Teach me?" she asked after a long pause. Daniel smiled. "Of course." So he sang the words, slowly, so she could repeat them. Her voice was dry at first, but she followed him, one line at a time. Two voices, from different worlds, sang together in the dark. Then Zellari asked something unexpected. "Would it be strange if I called you friend?" Daniel turned slowly to her. "No," he said. "I'd be honored." She smiled, truly smiled. For the first time since her injury, it made her face glow in the dim light. Not beautiful in the way of polished skin or perfect form, but in the way of someone who had survived hell and still wanted to sing. A knock came at the door. A young alien girl peeked in, nervous. "Excuse me," she whispered. "Is it true? The dancer is walking again." Zellari blinked. Daniel gestured for her to come in. The girl stepped forward shyly. "My sister lost her foot in the blast. She cries every night. I told her about you, that you're learning to walk again." Zellari's throat tightened. She looked at the girl and said gently, "Then tell her this, Sif. I can take one step, so can she." The girl beamed and ran off. Daniel looked at her with pride. "You just gave someone hope," he said. Zellari looked down at her legs, then at her hands, then at him. "I think," she said quietly, "you gave it to me first." And in that moment, with no crowd watching, no army near, no war inside, a bond stronger than metal formed, human and alien, broken and healing side by side, and tomorrow they would try again. Morning came slowly to the station, lights spilling through the cracked window like melted gold. Dust floated in the air, machines buzzed, and Zellari not just stood, balanced, no hands holding her, no Daniel catching her. Her back was straight, her breath steady, her braces clicked, but they held. Daniel watched from the doorway, his arms crossed, eyes filled with quiet pride. "That's new," he said softly. Zellari looked over her shoulder, a soft smirk on her face. "Felt like the world was tipping under me," she whispered, "but I'm still here." Daniel stepped closer, ready to help, but she raised a hand. "No," she said gently. "Let me try." He stopped, watched, held his breath. Zellari gripped the walker in front of her. She shifted her right foot. It moved forward, not far, just a little. Her left foot followed step and then another. Her legs wobbled. Her braces creaked, and for a moment it looked like she'd fall again, but she didn't. She kept moving. 5 steps, then she collapsed into the nearby chair, chest rising and falling like a drumbeat. Daniel walked over, crouched beside her, and smiled. "Told you." Zellari didn't speak. Tears filled her eyes, but this time, not from pain, from victory. Even the metal chair seemed like a throne. Now, because she had earned it. News spread. She walked, whispered the younger refugees. She stood without help, said the guards. She's not broken anymore. Some murmured, But one elder alien, passing by Daniel's quarters, said something that made him pause. She was never broken. You just helped her remember who she was. Later that day, a small crowd gathered at the open hallway. Daniel had cleared space. He stood at one end. Zalari, gripping her walker, stood at the other. A few aliens peeked around the corner. Some leaned on crutches. Others sat in wheelchairs. No one said a word. Zalari looked at Daniel. He nodded. She took a deep breath, then began walking. 1 step, 2, 3, her feet didn't glide like a dancer's. Her legs weren't steady. But she moved. Every muscle screamed. Sweat rolled down her face. The braces dug into her skin. But she didn't stop. Halfway through, a young alien child clapped. Then another, and another, by the time she reached Daniel. The whole hallway echoed with claps and small cheers. Zalari slumped into his arms, shaking. He whispered, "You did it." She whispered back, "I did." Her voice trembled, but her heart didn't. That night, Daniel cooked a simple stew over a heat coil. Zalari sat nearby, her legs bandaged, fresh salve on her skin. The pain was there, but different now. Not weakness, effort. "Did you see their faces?" she asked, smiling softly. "I did," Daniel replied, stirring the pot. "You're changing more than just yourself." Zalari stared at the window. The stars blinked like tiny eyes. "They said I was a waste," she murmured. Back in the camp, after the blast, Daniel turned. "And what do you say now?" She closed her eyes. "I say, I'm still standing." He grinned. "That's my girl." She blushed slightly, then said, "Tomorrow, I want to try without the walker. Just 1 step." Daniel didn't question her. He simply said, "I'll be there." The next morning, she stood near the wall, her fingers barely touching it for balance. The walker was pushed aside. Daniel stood behind her. Silent. Zell, airy, breathed in. She took a step, wobbled, fell hard on her knees. Daniel rushed forward, but she raised her hand. "I'm fine," she growled. Her tone was sharp, stronger. She stood up, bracing herself on the wall. Then tried again. Another step, then a second. She didn't fall. She cried. Instead, not from pain, from power. The hallway echoed again with clapping. Even a few humans, watching from afar, nodded with respect. Zalari turned, her eyes shining, and Daniel whispered from behind her, "You will?" Later that night, the camp's public terminal flickered to life. A message had arrived from a nearby recovery vessel. They were looking for survivors, ready to travel to the outer colony stations. Clean homes, food, work, safety, but only the able would be taken. Zalari heard the announcement and looked down at her legs. "I'm not ready," she whispered. Daniel knelt beside her. "You will be." She looked at him. "What if I'm left behind again? Then I'll stay too." She blinked. "But you're needed." "You're a medic. I'm needed here," he said. "With you." And for the first time in her life, Zalari didn't feel like a burden. She felt like someone worth standing beside. A week passed. Zalari's steps grew steadier. The walker was now resting in a corner, unused. She practiced with the wall, with railings, even short walks without support. She could take 5, sometimes even 6, steps, slow but proud. Each movement hurt, but the pain no longer controlled her. She had learned how to rise, but the world outside hadn't changed yet, and it was about to test her strength again. One morning, Daniel was checking a new shipment of medical supplies. When the door slid open with a hiss, 2 officers in gray uniforms stepped inside. Their badges showed the symbol of the Central Evac Authority, the group that oversaw all refugee movements. One of them, tall woman with sharp eyes and a voice like steel, spoke first. "We're relocating all high-dependency cases," she said flatly. "Those requiring long-term aid must be transferred to Sector 12's medical station. That includes Subject 47Z. Daniel's brow furrowed. "Her name is Zellari." "She's been marked for relocation," the woman said again. "Prepare her for transport." Daniel stepped forward. "She doesn't need high-dependency care anymore. She walks." The second officer, a thick-armed man, looked at his tablet. "Last record shows her with permanent leg damage." "She made progress," Daniel said. "You should see it yourself." They didn't even blink. "She's to be removed within the hour." Daniel rushed back to his quarters. Zellari was practicing by the edge of the room, taking careful steps, with her braces locked in place. She turned as he entered, reading his face instantly. "What's wrong?" "They're trying to move you," he said. "To the medical ward in Sector 12, her hands clenched at her sides. "No," she said. "They think you're still broken," Daniel continued. "They haven't seen you walk. They only see the file. They don't care about—" "I'm not going back to that place," she said, her voice shaking. Daniel nodded. "Then you need to show them." Zellari looked at her legs, then at the door. "They'll laugh. Let them," Daniel said. "But take the steps anyway." 20 minutes later, the officer stood near the hallway, arms crossed.
"You?"
Other refugees had gathered nearby. Whispers filled the air. Zellari appeared at the far end. She was shaking but standing. No walker, no cane. Only her. She started walking slow, controlled. Each step clicked with the braces. Her foot dragged slightly on the left. Her knees were stiff. But she walked 1 step, 2, 3. By step 5, her jaw was tight. By step 7, her legs trembled. By step 8, she stumbled, gasps echoed. But she didn't fall. She grabbed the wall, steadied herself, and took a 9th step. Then a 10th. Then stood still. Sweat rolling down her temples, chest rising fast. The officer with the tablet looked up, blinking. "That's impossible." The woman scowled, still unstable. "She can't handle evacuation." "Can handle more than you think," Zellari said through gritted teeth. The woman raised an eyebrow. "You won't survive the journey." "I already survived worse," Zellari replied. "And I'll walk onto that ship myself." Daniel stepped beside her. "She stays," he said. The officer tapped on her pad, irritated. "We'll reassess. For now, she's suspended from transfer until further notice." Then they walked away. Zellari leaned against the wall, legs ready to give out, but she didn't collapse. She smiled. Daniel turned to her. "You just made them eat their own words." Zellari chuckled breathlessly. "Good. I hope it tastes bitter." That night, Daniel helped her with her bandages. He worked quietly. Focused. Zellari winced at a sore spot. "You should have told me it hurt more," Daniel said gently. "I didn't want to stop." She whispered. "You wouldn't have." He said, "I know you." She looked at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. "I was scared." Daniel paused. "Of the officers." She shook her head. "Falling in front of everyone." "Of proving them right." He touched her shoulder gently. "But you didn't." She swallowed hard. "I was always afraid of being forgotten." "Left behind? You're not forgotten," Daniel said. "And I'm not leaving you behind." Zellari looked into his eyes. "You mean that?" "Yes." And in that quiet moment, they understood something deep. That this journey wasn't just about walking again. It was about being seen, about belonging. The next day, something strange happened too. Younger aliens approached Zellari in the hallway, both using crutches. One bowed slightly. "Will you help us practice too?" Zellari blinked. "Me?" They nodded. "We want to learn, like you did." She looked at Daniel. He smiled and gave a slight nod. Zellary turned back to the children and said gently, "All right. But I'm going to be strict." The kids smiled, and for the first time she became more than just a survivor. She became a guide. The large room at the center of the refugee station had always been cold and empty. It was used for storage, or sometimes quiet meals. Its walls were plain metal, the lights above flickered, and the floor was full of scratches from boots and wheels. But today, it was different. Someone had cleared the space. Someone had hung small lanterns in the corners. Someone had connected an old speaker system to a power pack. And Daniel had found music, real music, Ruby Six soft, slow, dreamlike. The kind you don't just hear. You feel. Zellary stood near the center of the room, her arms at her sides, her legs braced but firm. A few refugees watched from the edges. Children sat on the floor, legs crossed, eyes wide. Adults leaned quietly on the walls. Even some officers had stopped to see what was happening. Daniel stood beside her, holding the small speaker in his hands. He didn't speak. He just pressed play, and the music began. Zellary closed her eyes for a moment. The station disappeared. The rust, the wires, the cold walls all gone. She was home again. She saw the glowing trees of her world. She felt the soft wind in her hair. She heard the bells on her ankles, and then she moved. Her foot slid forward, slow and careful. Her arms rose, fingers trembling. Her body bent into a turn. The braces on her legs creaked, but she didn't stop. She kept moving. Not perfectly, not quickly, but gracefully, like water over stone, like light over shadow. The crowd didn't breathe. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. Because he wasn't seeing someone recover. He was seeing someone return to herself. Zellary turned in a slow circle, her eyes open now, tears sliding down her cheeks, not from pain, not from sadness, from freedom. Every step she took was a word. Every movement was a memory. And every beat of the music said the same thing. You can. You did. You are. The music faded. The final note echoed. Zellary stopped at the center of the room. She looked around at the crowd. No one clapped at first. They were too stunned. Then a child began to clap softly. Another joined. Then more. And soon, the whole room was filled with the sound of hands meeting, gentle, loud, joyful, not polite applause. Celebration. Daniel walked up to her. His eyes wet. Zellary looked at him and whispered, "I danced." He nodded. "Yes, you did." She reached out and took his hand. She didn't wobble. She didn't fall. She stood strong and tall. "I thought I had lost this part of me forever," she said. "You never lost it," Daniel said softly. "You just needed time to find it again." Later that night, the lights were low, and the station was quiet again. Zellary sat with Daniel outside, near the supply crates. The stars were bright. The air was still. "Tomorrow," Daniel said, "a ship arrives." "I heard," she replied. "They'll offer spots for those ready to join colony teams. New homes, new cities, real life." Zellary looked down at her hands. "And they'll take me?" Daniel smiled. "I already sent your name." "With proof," she chuckled. "What proof?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small recording device. "The dance," he said. "It's going with your file." Zellary laughed. "You're terrible." "I'm proud," he replied. There was a long pause. Then she asked, "Will you go too?" He looked up at the stars. "I was thinking of it." She looked at him. "With me." Daniel turned his head slowly, met her eyes. "If you want me there." She didn't answer right away. Then she leaned her head on his shoulder and said softly, "I can walk now. But I'd still like you beside me." He smiled. "I'd like that too." The next morning, When the ship arrived, Zellari walked up. The ramp on her own. No walker, no cane. Just her. Braces still on. Scars still fresh. But she walked with her head high, her chin up, and her steps steady. Daniel walked behind her. Others clapped as she passed. Some saluted. One child held a sign. She walked so we can too. As the ship door closed and the engines rumbled to life, Zellari stood by the window, watching the station fade away. I came here broken, she whispered. Danielle stood beside her. You leave stronger. She turned, smiled, and said, No. I leave whole, and somewhere deep in space. A new world waited, and this time she would dance across it.